With its initial release in 2016, Overwatch became an instant hit with players. Its roster of likable characters and fun gameplay mechanics made it a global obsession, especially among young gamers. Today, Overwatch doesn't have the same amount of hype surrounding it, but it's still a popular game nevertheless. Around 15–20K people still watch Overwatch streams on Twitch each month. This means that you'll have no trouble finding matches if you're thinking of getting into it. Number 1. Gigabyte GeForce GTX 1666GB. While the GTX 1660 Super is technically a budget card, it's still more than capable of delivering great performances. With a boost clock of 1830 MHz, it can keep Overwatch running at around 235 frames per second on the high setting. I did notice that the frame rate dipped during larger fights, but this is easily taken care of by switching to a lower resolution setting. The GTX 1660 Super comes with 6GB of GDDR6 RAM, which is around twice as fast GDDR5. Combine this with the GPU 88 texture mapping units, and it's pretty much guaranteed that all the graphics in Overwatch are rendered extremely fast. Number 2. Gigabyte GeForce RTX 2060 Windforce OC8GB. The RTX 2060 has a slightly slower boost clock than the GTX 1660, but it still manages to produce a higher FPS. This is because, first of all, it's got 8GB in VRAM, which means that it can load up more objects and textures at once. Secondly, it's also got more shading units and TMU, which means that it's less of a struggle to render graphics on the screen. In high settings, this graphics card was able to keep the FPS above 315 most of the time. While large firefights did cause some significant dipping, I didn't feel the need to switch to a lower setting. Something I love about this Gigabyte VGA is the Windforce 2X cooling system. It features two 100 fans which spin in alternate directions, leading to more efficient heat dissipation. Number 3. Sapphire Radeon 11265 520G Pulse RX 588GB. The Sapphire Radeon Pulse RX 580 offers a lot for its price point. For instance, it offers 8GB of VRAM, but keep in mind that it's GDDR5 and not 6, which means that it won't be as fast as the RTX 2060. Furthermore, it has a decent boost clock speed of 1366 MHz, which caps off the frame rate at around the 120s on the high settings. If you don't want to experience stuttering during large matches, I recommend playing at medium settings instead. This graphics card ships with intelligent fan control Roman 3 software, which tries to keep the fans as quiet as possible. When you're doing light work, the fans don't spin at all and only start to back up when you load up a game or a heavy application. Number 4. Asus ROG STRIX GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. In all honesty, an RTX 2080 Ti is pretty overkill if you just want to play overkill. However, if you want an extremely powerful graphics card and you don't mind the high price tag, then go for it. This graphics card has a boost of 1665 MHz, which isn't out of this world like you might expect from this price point. However, it leverages power differently through the use of CUDA cores. CUDA is a programming language developed by NVIDIA that can create thousands of parallel processors. This means that tasks like rendering in-game scenery and drawing character models can be handled much faster by the GPU. The RTX 2080 Ti is nothing short of a beast, allowing you to run Overwatch on Ultra while still keeping the FPS at around 150 FPS. It's also about 11GB of VRAM, which means that you can play pretty much any AAA title that's out right now. Number 5. MSI GeForce GTX 1650 Super Ventus XS. What if you just wanted a GPU that just fulfilled the minimum spec requirements for Overwatch? Then I recommend the GeForce GTX 1650. It's got 4GB of GDDR6 VRAM, which is what Blizzard lists as the minimum amount of VRAM needed to play Overwatch. So as you might guess, you're not going to the best performance for Overwatch out of this graphics card. Despite the impressive boost clock speed of 1740 MHz, the lack of VRAM and the relatively low shading unit count holds it back. If you want to play Overwatch on this graphics card, then you're better off having your settings at low for optimum performance. If you try to push it to medium, you may experience some stutter. This graphics card comes with MSI Afterburner technology, which makes overclocking much easier. It lets you access variables like clock frequency, voltage, and fan speed so that you can configure them to your liking. Number 6. ZOTAC GeForce GTX 1070 Mini 8GB. The GTX 1070 is a well-performing GPU, especially when it comes to esports titles like Overwatch. It's got a boost clock speed of 1708 MHz, and when combined with the 8 GB of VRAM, you get an FPS that hovers around the 145 mark on high settings. When you've got a lot of players battling on screen, you can expect this to take a dip, but I didn't experience any stuttering whatsoever. This GTX 1070 graphics card comes with a software called Freeze, which automated fan control based on the internal temperature. It automatically turns off the fans when the internal temperature is low enough. This helps increase the fan's lifespan since they are not turned on 100% of the time. Number 7. Asus GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. The GTX 1050 Ti is another budget GPU that fulfills the minimum requirements for running Overwatch. It offers 4 GB of GDDR5 VRAM, and its boost clock speed stands at a decent 1392 MHz. In short, with the GTC 1050 Ti, Overwatch can be played in low settings without any noticeable stuttering. Like the more powerful RTX 2080 Ti, it comes with the GPU Tweak Roman 2 software, which gives you an easy-to-use visual interface for overclocking. However, considering that this graphics card only comes with a single fan, I wouldn't overclock it for very long periods, unless of course, you've got a really good cooling system set up in your PC rig. Typically, you don't have to worry about Overwatch overheating GPU as it's not a very demanding game, but overclocking tends to overexert your card. Number 8. MSI RX Vega 64-hour boost. Rounding up my list of graphics cards for Overwatch is another AMD VGA, the MSI RX Vega 64-hour boost. It features a base clock speed of 1272 MHz and a boost speed of 1575 MHz, allowing it to retain a 150 FPS on the high setting. Bump up the resolution to Ultra and the FPS drops down 30 points, which still isn't a problem. However, for big matches, I recommend having it on high or medium for ultra-smooth performance. This graphics card has an incredibly high number of shading and texture mapping units which allow it to render very realistic graphics. Lastly, it comes with MSI Afterburner technology, which makes overclocking a fast and easy thing.